Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Playhq project update webinar. Thanks so much for your time on a Tuesday evening. We really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Matt Macintosh, GM of Communications, Marketing and Digital at Basketball Victoria. Joining me as panelists this evening, also from Basketball Victoria, we have Kevin Ng and Matt Shamel, both digital support officers. And from Playhq, we have Liz Toland and Ashley Block, part of the platform engagement team, and they will introduce themselves a little bit later. There's also apologies, from David Owies from Basketball Victoria. He's off for personal reasons. But first of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we're meeting on this evening and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. It's a bit of a different format this evening. Obviously, we can't see your lovely faces, but we find it's a bit easy with multiple panelists and the presentation to display in this webinar format. This session is being recorded, and we will also send the recording out and the slide decks to everybody in the coming days after this meeting. In regards to questions, obviously happy to have as many questions as you send through on the evening. If you look down to the bottom right-hand side of the menu, there's a Q&A button. We'd like you to use the Q&A button rather than the chat button this evening. It just allows us to track and monitor the questions that we've answered, etc., rather than getting lost in a chat. So ask the questions there. We'll stop during certain sections of this evening and try and answer as many questions as we can live. But if we can't, we will develop a list of FAQs. We'll send it afterwards. Or we might take you offline and have one-on-ones with certain people if there's specific questions. So that's the format for this evening. Kev, you just want to jump to the agenda. So just quickly, we're going to cover the project drivers and timing. So a bit of a recap, the journey and where we are now. Our partnership with Playhq, we'll introduce Liz and Ashley and the Playhq team. We'll go through the functionality roadmap, and then we'll cover off consultation and support at the end. So hope to be done in the hour and let you head off and get some dinner or do something more exciting. But yeah, appreciate your time again. And I'll pass on to you now, Kev. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks for that, Matt, and hi, everyone. Firstly, for context, I just want to cast your mind back to the drivers and why Basketball Victoria undertook this project. The first 2 points I've got there provide a better user and administrator experience and to partner with a vendor who understands and supports the sport. I guess although Sports TG, which was a system that was built over a number of years, served us well for a long time, our experience and relationship with them did deteriorate over time. As we all know, the system itself was difficult to use, which resulted in only 60% of associations and 50% of clubs utilising it for registration and competition management. It was littered with advertising. Sometimes the advertising covered fixtures, and sometimes the advertising was of an inappropriate nature. The support levels had dropped drastically in recent years, and there were also many unfulfilled promises of a new platform along the journey. Some of this may have been a result of their unstable ownership, where the company was regularly sold off and most recently offshore to an American corporation. And by the end, we had zero involvement in the direction of the product. We also needed a system that could underpin our new fee structure, which was a BV license that member associations voted for back in 2019. And finally, we needed to ensure legal compliance around data and privacy, not that doesn't just apply to Basketball Victoria, but associations and clubs. The Federal Privacy Act and data principles state that users must own and manage their own data. And in this day and age, we can no longer roll participants over from season to season, in effect, registering them on their behalf. Now, in terms of timing of the onboarding, although we would have liked to have waited until we were further down the track development-wise before rolling out Playhq, we had to move as soon as possible, and this was for the following reasons. We were operating for a period of time out of contract with Sports TG, which was a big risk to the sport, where the rug could be pulled from underneath us. Stadium scoring, which is one of Sports TG's electronic scoring platforms, was used by a number of associations and also the VJBL. And this was scheduled to be and was ultimately decommissioned in mid-2020. Also, soon after word got out about Playhq, Sports TG announced that belatedly there would be changes to their platform, which incidentally hasn't as yet transpired, but we did want to avoid the risk of having to make 2 system changes in a short period of time, whether that be in the transition of hardware of electronic scoring platform and or the registration and competition management platform from old Sports TG to new Sports TG to Playhq. So it was decided that one transition was a much better solution for our clubs and associations. And finally, one thing that's important to note too is that funding via registrations was required by Playhq to enable the ongoing development of their platform, being a startup operation. Now, in terms of basketball's journey, I won't go into the detail of what happened before we started rolling out the system. Liz will talk to that a bit later on. But once registration and basic competition management was built inside of Playhq, we ran a trial and pilot program with 14 smaller associations, predominantly from the country. Yarram being the first cab off the rank in Victoria. After the pilot proved to be successful and clubs, e-scoring and registration supplements functionality was built, the full rollout commenced. And it was critical that all associations came on board at this point in order for the BV license to work effectively. So associations came on board autumn 2020 and winter 2020, depending on when the next season started. Then, as we all know, COVID-19 hit us, and I guess it did hit Basketball Victoria, our associations, but also hit Playhq as well from a resourcing point of view. There were also some impact to the delivery of certain functionality, as functionality down the track that was needed was brought forward and new functionality was required due to COVID, notably the addition of exception dates mid-season, the COVID tracing report script, and adjustments to the Basketball Victoria licenses. Now that Playhq has been used since November 2020 and for about 6 months in earnest, we've got a few usage stats to share with you. So 150 associations and 516 clubs are now onboarded. We only have a handful of summer associations to go. They're the associations, the smaller country associations that only operate over summer. We've got 400,000 competition registrations and 17,000 program registrations from a total of 205,000 unique participants. 100,000 games have been electronically scored, which averages to 6,500 games per week. Now, we're under no illusions that there's still a hell of a lot of work to do, but it's important to remember that this is a system that's being built from the ground up, and tech projects such as this are long-term propositions. But here's a bit of a snapshot of what we've achieved so far in a short period of time. What we've got is a cleaner interface that's free from advertising, that presents our sport in a better light. A system that's easy to use, wizard style configuration, which makes it a lot easier to set up your fixtures and registration forms, etc. We've now got a more equitable, affordable, transparent, streamlined and fair membership model, and a model that's used statewide, both in country Victoria and Metro Melbourne. It means that there are no more secondary registrations for the country. There's no more passing of the parcel of team fees or component of team fees in metropolitan Melbourne from parents to clubs to associations up to BV, which is a much more streamlined and transparent model for participants. There's also no more backdoor ways into the system without payment that could take place in the old system. We've all now got more accurate membership numbers, both at association, both state level associations, but also for our clubs. And this gives us all better insights into participation and allows us to better support the growth of our sport moving forward. All associations and clubs are now on the same platform. We've got some clubs that operate in multiple associations, and they now are able to use one database rather than multiple databases, which were a subset of various association databases that they were participating in. And we've got organisations using an all-in-one system for our clubs and associations now that programs and events are also in the same system as our registrations and comp management. And one thing that's really, really important to Basketball Victoria is we've got a fantastic working relationship with Playhq, which Matt Schimmel will go into shortly. So I guess from me summing up, what's been built is great, but there's still a hell of a lot more work to be done, which Playhq will talk about later on in this presentation. But we've got no doubt that we're very much on the right path for our sport moving forward. So Matt, at this stage, I might throw back to you to see if there are any questions that have popped up so far.
There's one question from Tony about building the program for basketball by basketball. I don't know if you want to address that one, Kev, because I still think that's the case. But
yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Playhq will go into you know, their strategy with multi-sport, and which is great news for both Playhq and also there are benefits for basketball as well. So the way that which differs from Sports TG, the way that Playhq have built their platform, they've got different tenants. So Basketball Victoria has its own tenant. So any changes that are made specific for other sports such as AFL, for example, where there's goals behinds and sometimes super goals, they don't affect the basketball tenant because we've got our own standalone database. And as Matt will touch on in a second, we're heavily involved in the development process of Playhq, and certainly, you know, I feel that we are building this system the way we want for basketball in Victoria.
that was it for questions so far. So,
all right, Matt, I might throw over to you, Matt Schimmel, to talk about how the relationship between Playhq and Basketball Victoria.
Thanks, Kev. Hi, everyone. Matt Schimmel here from the digital support team. I hope you're all well, and thanks for coming along tonight. So I'm just going to quickly have a chat about our working relationship with Playhq. So we've got a really close working relationship. We have weekly meetings with many of the teams that work at Playhq, and we're corresponding with them daily regarding support, health of the platform, development, and a lot more other things as well. Just to give you a quick overview of the development cycle so you understand what goes into building new features and functionality. So firstly, we firstly do a discovery session with the Playhq product team, and that's where they'll present their ideas and vision for features and functionality yet to be built. We'll then normally have somewhat of a robust discussion, whether we agree with them or disagree, put forward set scenarios, and then reach a consensus or agreement on the best approach. Once we've done that, or once Playhq have agreed to that, they'll go away, write up the requirements and the scoping, which will then give them an understanding of the effort and time it will take to build the functionality. They'll then schedule it with one of their 5 squads in a sprint. So a sprint of work generally takes a fortnight. And then at the end of that fortnight, they'll release that work to their testing environment where they'll do their own testing. And then we have a fortnightly showcase, which they will present the work that they've built to us, being BV, and we'll provide feedback or anything that may need tinkering with before giving them the green light to then release that new functionality to the live environment to clubs, associations, players, and parents as well. So I'm going to hand over now to Liz Tolan from Playhq. She's going to introduce the Playhq team and give a bit of an overview about Playhq itself. So over to you, Liz.
Thanks very much, Matt. Hello, everyone, and thank you for that comprehensive introduction to both you and Kev. And thanks to you all for taking time out of your evening to hear a little bit more about Playhq and the journey that we're on and what's to come. So my name's Liz Toland. I'm the program delivery lead at Playhq. As you can see there, the core function of my role is to help manage the rollout of our platform to our clients and really to try and avoid any last minute surprises. So our team's pretty new. It's actually doubled in size in the last couple of months. We've got Kat and Ash on the call also tonight. Kat's just joined my team as a partner delivery lead. Kat has a great background in sports as well. Kat actually a few years ago was working at Sports TG, so brings that knowledge into the team, which is super valuable. And a little bit later on, I'll hand over to Ash and she'll do an intro. She's one of our platform SMEs and she'll take you through the roadmap. So I've been with Playhq for around 6 months now. I spent a large chunk of my career prior to this at a company called MYOB, who some of you may know, in various marketing and product roles, but most recently looking after their go-to-market enablement team. So while accounting is far cry from sports delivery, and I don't particularly have direct experience in sports delivery roles prior to this, I do have kids that are basketball mad and play in a club that's part of the FDBA. Hello, Dion, if you're out there. And I also recently put up my hand to be an enrolment officer for the club, just so that I could really put myself in the customer's shoes and get to know the platform as well as I could. So I absolutely share an understanding and an empathy for the problems to be solved and some of the gaps that still remain in the Playhq platform. So when I joined at Playhq, one of the big jobs to be done was to set up an engagement framework that enabled us to deliver fast, but still to get the right inputs from the right people at the right time. So Matt's just talked a little bit about that. And we've built on that agile development model that Matt's talked about and built an engagement framework that really focuses on collaboration and regularly looking at and improving our overall ways of working, which is kind of a core principle of agile development. So part of that is really regularly seeking feedback and input. And we're working really closely with the team at BV to understand your needs and to translate those into platform deliverables. So a bit more about the journey. So Playhq started out around 8 years ago as a consulting business called Codeware, who worked with various sport-related clients, focusing primarily on digital transformation. And it became pretty evident that sports were urgently looking for help. We had multiple international, national, state governing bodies managing grassroots sports that approached us, wanting to transition to a more modern platform. So we decided to respond to that, undertook a bit of research to understand how we might build a platform that revolutionised effectively the way that grassroots sports were run and operated. We had a number of experienced team members that came across from the Codeware team at the start of the journey, but investment in the platform recently and bringing on more sports partners has really enabled us to scale and build up the team to make sure we're set up for success. So as well as, core developers who are building the platform, we've now got a team of product managers, customer experience designers, really focusing on the overall experience and put a lot of thought into the way the platform's built out. And we're taking a very considered approach to that. And the partner engagement team that you've heard about as well as a really comprehensive team of delivery managers and so well-rounded team managers to support you. So really the core goal for us is to build a scalable foundation that enables us to deliver features and functionality quickly while keeping things simple and easy and saving time for our clients. Thank you. So having done the work to analyse what wasn't working in the current systems, we really set out to design and build a single, scalable and easily maintainable platform. So what that means is that as the needs of sports change, we'll be able to adapt and innovate, and we'll be able to do it much faster than has been done before. So we've got partnerships in place across 4 core sporting bodies now, and we're building out the platform foundations to also meet their needs, which is in effect really the big job for us to do this year. We're also in discussions at the moment with a number of other basketball states about moving onto the platform. Earlier this year, we were really pleased to be able to get Basketball Tasmania up and running in the first couple of months of the year. they're now taking registrations and transitioning competitions and programs onto the platform as well, which is super exciting. We see lots of benefit in scaling out across the basketball community. So we serve 3 core user groups, and our mission is ultimately to help grow community sport. So by making life easier, not for just the sporting codes who we hold those partnerships with, but for the players and the mums and dads out there who give up their time, and for you guys who we know that you spend your day in, day out at the platform. We really do understand that there are frustrations with the way that some of those things are working currently, but we are asking for your patience and understanding as we build out the foundations of the platform. And we're really confident that we'll be able to circle back around and improve on the foundations iteratively and remove some of those frictions that you're facing today. So from a participant perspective, the end goal and vision is really for a single login and a single view and experience across any sport that me as a player or as a volunteer or as a parent, that me or my family is participating in. So we are going to continue to build out the requirements for basketball as we're building out the foundations for our other sporting partners. And you will really, I think, continue to see some of that innovation across the platform. And you'll see that coming to life really quickly with fast delivery of features and functionality. So I'm going to hand over to Ash now, who'll take you through a bit more detail on what has been delivered from a roadmap perspective and what's yet to come.
Thanks, Liz. It was a really good introduction from you and the team. So as Liz mentioned, my name's Ash Block and I also work in the partner engagement team with her in the role of platform SME. I work really closely with my colleague, also Patrick McInerney, who's also a platform SME. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us today, but basically Pat and I have been with Playhq myself for just around 6 weeks, so relatively new and really getting in there and learning everything about it at the moment. And Patrick for around 6 months, so both new to the business as well. But prior to joining Playhq, we actually both have a background working in national sports organisations at Tennis Australia. So we do really understand, I guess, the role of products like this from the governing bodies perspective, and our role at Tennis Australia was often about rolling out different digital products to our clubs, associations and member associations. And one of the key things that we love to do is making sure that, you know, volunteers and clubs, that it's really relieving administration burden for them and that they're maximising the use of platforms such as this to get the most for the sport and for their clubs and associations as well. So whilst we've definitely got that understanding from a governing body perspective, we've also both been heavily involved in grassroots sports over the years, myself in particular at basketball. So one of the massive appeals about this job for me was working with the Basketball Victoria team. I actually started a competition out in the western suburbs some time ago now, but whilst I was at uni. So I definitely understand that the day-to-day, or got a pretty good insight into some of the day-to-day things that you go to, and really appreciate the time and effort that it takes to get some of these programs and competitions up and running. And then more recently for myself, also as a volunteer at different clubs, and particularly my football club, around registrations and events and things like that. So I've got definitely a passion for me is about how we can enhance products like Playhq and how they can really deliver value for sports and get more people participating. So really excited to chat to you tonight, particularly about some of the things that we've recently done over the last 12 months, but also some of the exciting features that we have coming up. So first of all, we'll just touch on some of the things that we've done over the last 12 months. And I won't go into each of these individually. You can read them up on the screen there. But Liz spoke earlier about how important it is that we're developing the platform in a really deliberate and, I guess, sustainable way. And that allows us to continue offer value like we have over the last 12 months. So when you look at all of those things on one slide, you can see that the things that we've offered over the last 12 months, there is quite a lot of new features and functionality there. Hopefully a lot of you have been able to use most of them, if not all of them. And it's a pretty good achievement considering COVID was thrown in there as well. It's great that we've been able to get through this much. Matt also spoke earlier about the process of working with Playhq and the Basketball Victoria relationship. So the team's always involved in our discovery sessions, and they get to have input into features that we release like this to ensure that it's meeting the core needs of basketball associations. So, for example, I know by speaking with Kev, Dave and Matt, the fixture upload was a really important one, as was multiple buy feature for some of the associations. And I know that they've found that really useful. So in the next few slides, I'll go into a few more of those features that we've released over the past couple of months, or the last 12 months. So the first one I'll touch on there is tournaments. So we know how important tournaments are for basketball associations and how many of you are running them. So the initial capability allowed for sort of round robin and knockout finals. And we know in particular something that's been of great benefit is the addition of pools and crossovers, something very important for you to be able to manage your tournaments efficiently and effectively. And it's really been great to see a number of associations utilising that. And we've received some really positive feedback from that. So we'd like to continue to hear how you're using that and how it's going for you. The next one I'll touch on is the programs functionality. So programs is another area of the platform that we've built out pretty significantly after the last 12 months. And I think it's really important. Liz spoke to that, the participant experience earlier, I guess, and how important that is to us to ensure that, you know, participants and parents are really getting a lot of value out of Playhq as well. And I think that the programs module is a key area of this. So if you think of something like, you know, across the multi-sport platform, something like Auskick, you know, there's so many kids that participate in Auskick and basketball. So the benefit there for a parent to be able to manage all of those different sporting activities for their family under one account, it really does make their life a lot more seamless and being able to view that activity under one account. So that's another benefit of the multi-sport platform that we offer. And then obviously in addition to that, there is a lot of benefit to those programs features for Basketball Victoria and the associations and clubs as well. So for example, the ability to share programs down. So it might be some of the beginner programs or the rep tryouts and junior country rep squads that can be shared down and allow registrations to be purchased for those. And then equally as important, the ability for you as associations and your clubs to be able to create their own programs. So that way they can, you know, have different events or different clinics and holiday camps and things like that they can put up online, take their fees, manage all of their participants through those lists, and even the ability to purchase products is a really handy feature as well that we've improved at the last 12 months. And another one that I'll talk to very briefly is the transfers feature. So this was something that we felt we could really streamline and provide a really way to hopefully ease some administration burden. And the ability for, I guess, the player to initiate a transfer through the registration process was something that we looked at really closely and think that it can relieve a lot of that administration burden. So once the player goes on and initiates that transfer, it's then up to the relevant clubs and associations to go into the platform and complete those actions. But hopefully by the player initiating it, it takes out of, I guess, a lot of the offline work of, have you submitted your transfer yet? Have you done this? Have you done that? It sort of all comes under that one registration process, and hopefully the players are a little bit more proactive in understanding what they need to do as well. And the final one that I'll talk about in terms of having release, we're just working with the VV team to get this one out to you, and that's our Mailchimp integration. So I know a lot of you are already using Mailchimp. For those that don't know what Mailchimp is, it's actually a market-leading communication tool. So what we've done here is, rather than go and build out this functionality ourselves and spend the time doing that, it's allowed us to focus on other areas of the platform, but we've gone and built an integration with Mailchimp, which, as I said, is market leading in this area of communications. And what it allows you to do is send out all of your emails and marketing campaigns from Mailchimp, and it's got some great features around that. But our integration will allow for all of your contacts that sit within Playhq to automatically be synced overnight to your Mailchimp account. So it's really easy for you to set up. Once you've set up and logged in, you don't need to do anything. That'll automatically sync for you overnight. And the BV team are getting ready to release that out to associations and clubs come around the middle of May. They're just making sure they've got all the relevant support materials ready for you all. And no doubt that's going to be a really handy feature to keep in contact with all of your contacts, and make sure you're maintaining those communications. So what I'm going to touch on now is some of our future development items, and I've broken this into two sections. So we'll first focus on the administration portal, and then we'll get into some features that we've got upcoming for our participant portal. So The first thing you'll notice here is on the right, you'll notice that there is the status on the right there. So the first one, all of these have the status of in development. And what that means is it's currently with our team and they're building out this functionality. So it should be released to associations over the next 2 to 3 months. So again, I won't read all of these word by word, but definitely a few things that'll be of interest of you there. So the first one, finals eligibility management. So that's the ability for you as associations to input your relevant finals eligibility rules and for the platform to manage that. And then obviously you'd have the relevant override features as well at association level as required. And then the next ones we've got there, we've also got the player life bans, player incident management and suspensions. I'm sure things that are going to be really important to the management of your associations day to day. So they're all in development with plans to release over the next 2 to 3 months. And we'll just go to the next slide there. And as you can see, we've got one more that's in development there, and that is our fixtures, ladders and results API. And what this allows for us to do is allows us to provide a lot of information to other third-party providers that Basketball Victoria partner with, and that way we can send them relevant information. So it might be if you're using a frankly digital website, for example, or you plan to, we'll be able to send the relevant information through to that, and also important for things such as Glory League integrations as well, and those other third-party apps that you may be using. You'll notice a few other statuses on this slide. So the one that you can see next is a group that are in discovery. So again, this was the process that Matt referred to earlier. So what we're doing at the moment, we're currently working with the Basketball Victoria team to go through these features and the different bits of functionality, and they'll provide feedback to make sure that these are going to be really valuable pieces of functionality for their clubs and associations. So, they'll say, at basketball, it works like this, and this is what's important on the ground. And the items on this list are probably more to be around the 3 to 6 month mark away for release. And the final few things we have there on that list are in the final thing we've got there on that list is the to be scheduled features. And there's a few in here. And again, these are things that the Basketball Vic guys are really coming to us and saying, this is the feedback we're getting from our associations. This is some things that will really help them in the management of their competitions and programs. So, it's things such as refund management, enhanced reporting, further enhancements to our competition management and things like that. So we'll continue to work on that in the background. Those at the moment don't have as definitive timelines, so we appreciate your patience as we work through those as much as we can, but no doubt that the Basketball Vic guys are providing your feedback to us to ensure that they're really valuable pieces of functionality for you. And the next one I'll touch on tonight, so this is the participant portal. So as I said, we've broken this down into admin portal and participant portal. We spoke earlier about how important the participant portal is and how much of a good experience we want this to be for participants and their families. So a few things on here. The first one, again, which is in development along with those first couple there, is our profile matching. So whilst we've labelled this as participant portal, there's definitely a lot of value to associations and clubs there, because what this is going to stop is a lot of duplicates in our database. So it'll actually stop duplicates before they get created with a few, prompts about profile matching, and you may already exist in our database and things like that. So we know there's nothing more frustrating than just having a database which isn't clean and you can't manage. So that'll be a really nice one to be able to improve that process. The next one there is participant email management. So that'll be the ability for participants to manage their own email address. So, for their logins and things like that, rather than having to log a support query. Another really exciting one, I think, is the My Teams feature. So that'll be a really easy way for participants to be able to quickly access all of their info when they log in. So they'll be able to go to their section and see all of the competitions or programs they're involved in with the relevant fixtures. So, if they're playing multiple domestic comps or they're in domestic and representative basketball, they'll be able to see that in the one spot. And then a little bit of an extension on a similar vein is the Manage My Team. So for those contacts that have a team manager or a coach role, they'll actually be able to enter their lineup from their participant profile as well. And I think that's a really handy feature for them. It makes it easier for them to find the information they need really easily. But more importantly, for clubs, they don't want to be providing full admin access to people who don't necessarily need it. So they'll just be able to access this information and do what they need to from their participant portal, which will be really nice. And the last two on that list, as you can see, again, they're in this to be scheduled category. So the first one there is the buy now, pay later. So what we want to be able to do is offer the ability for participants to be able to pay their membership and their fees over multiple installments. So we'll partner with a service for that to be able to provide that to everyone. And then the final one here, and this is one that we know how important it is to you, and the Basketball Vic team have been really great in ensuring that your feedback's been passed along and that we understand how important this is to everyone. So, and that's the player season statistics and leaderboards. So we are building out these features and working with how we get these into the platform. And again, it's one that we really appreciate your patience on, and we understand that it's a gap and it's causing a few issues for you, but it's just something that we really want to make sure we do right, and we do it in that deliberate nature that allows us to continue to make enhancements well into the future. So, but yeah, I can rest assured that the Basketball Vic team has passed your feedback on that particular feature in particular, along with all of these, and they'll have the involvement as we work through the process. So thank you very, very much for your time tonight. I really look forward to working with quite a few of you and through the BV team as time goes by, and hopefully we can deliver a lot of these features that offer value to you in the future. So Matt, is there any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. We might pause for a couple of questions. So there's a couple of questions about Mailchimp and the need. Is there a need to pay for Mailchimp? Matt, Shamel, do you want to jump in here and answer these two?
Yeah, sure. So with Mailchimp, it is so it's free for up to 2,000 contacts. I think 10,000 messages, and then the next level up, where I think you can have like 50,000 messages or 50,000 contacts. That's $10 per month. So that's the pricing for that. But with I know Sports TG, used to be able to do that within the platform. I guess the big benefit, and especially from a legal perspective, is that in Mailchimp there's the unsubscribe option. So I think keep that in mind, because I don't believe that was in Sports TG.
And it's built specifically for bulk emails. You can tag contacts. You can spruce up your emails much better. So it's a much better system. So we aim to have that out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll share some information with you guys on that one. There's one from Dave Hughes about player bans and suspensions block players centrally so they cannot play at other associations or leagues. Kev, did you want to answer that, or Ash? Or
yeah, so we've been working with the Playhq design team on that one. It's definitely a requirement of ours to have the player blocked in electronic scoring, and I believe at this stage in version 1 that should be achievable.
Yeah, that's a plan, and then obviously for there to be the relevant override procedures as well eventually.
Cool. There's one from Kira about what is the ETA for the link with RefBook. So that fits in with the fixture ladders results API. So there's a number of third parties, Pay, Glory League, frankly for the websites, and RefBook in our ecosystem. So the APIs are quite close. I don't have an exact date for the RefBook one, but I know RefBook are working quite closely with Playhq. They're having their own meetings even without us to make sure the linkages are right, with data flow going both ways. So I'd envisage that in the next couple of months, but as soon as we know the exact date, we'll pass that on. There's another one about, is there a facility to duplicate a program registration form instead of having to create a new one for a new season? I don't know if that's on the list. No,
that's not one that was on our list, but that's definitely something we can take away as feedback to make sure we add it somewhere.
Tony, when will roles be extended? Team manager score as administrator roles, so further roles in the system, as in admin roles?
Yep, yeah, so is that, oh, sorry, Kev, you go.
I might talk to that one. If it's not already there, in the next week or two, configurable registration roles can be defined. So for competitions, we'll add the volunteer role, so you can have volunteers register for competition seasons. And when it comes to programs, you'll have the ability to have officials, volunteers, coaches, team managers, and players register for programs. You can currently add in administrators, like committee members, to your organization contact area and choose to have that visible or not. Sorry, Ash, did you want to add anything there?
No, sorry, perfect, Kev, all good.
Yeah, and just I'll touch on the score table officials and statisticians. That will be captured via RefBook.
Yep. There's a couple other questions that are quite specific, so we might take some of them offline about closing game results. So Dave, I think I'll pass Dave Hughes. I'll pass you on to Kev, and I think we might be able to follow that up separately. Is there a partnership integration with TeamPay? So yes, so there's an integration with TeamPay that's happening soon. I'd envisage that in the next couple of months. It's definitely getting pretty close. And then Shane's asked about the SMS price for Mailchimp. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can take that offline with you, Shane, and chat to you about that. And that's it for questions at the moment. So back to you, Matt Shamel, you're up next.
Sure. So just to let you know about our consultation groups that we have. So since the start of 2019, when Playhq was in its infancy, we engaged a small group of association and club administrators. Well, since then, we occasionally meet with them to present new and upcoming functionality and features. And then the purpose of it is to get their feedback and ideas around it. And then, for example, we had the Mailchimp, we demonstrated Mailchimp integration a couple of weeks ago and got some really good feedback from the two groups there. So because these groups have been going for some time, we are looking to expand the consultation group. So if you are interested in joining, you can see Kev's email on the presentation there. Feel free to get in contact with him and he'll add you to the list of administrators part of that consultation group. Next slide, Kev. Thank you. And just finally on support. So we're currently using Playhq's support platform in Zendesk. And at the moment, we're transitioning to our own instance of Zendesk. The main benefits of doing this is that it will allow us to post specific BV content and basketball specific updates. So when there are new releases that go on, we can make it really specific to what will benefit basketball, and it's not just all the development that Playhq do for us as well as other sports. It'll also give us, being BV digital support, greater visibility around the reporting to understand your trends and common queries that we're receiving through support, because it's a real barometer to understand what's actually happening out there with the use of the platform, which in turn will allow us to provide a better service. So as I mentioned, that transition is happening at the moment, and I expect that to go live sometime next month. So I'll throw it back to Matt Macintosh now to close.
Yeah, so thanks, Matt. And if there's, I'll just check if there's any more, no specific questions. So yeah, once again, thanks so much for your time, and don't be, if you've got any feature suggestions or you want to chat to the team, please reach out. Team's more than happy to catch up. We can do it in person now or via Zoom, whatever's easiest for everybody. I'd like to thank Liz and Ashley for their time tonight. As I said, the recording and the slide deck will be sent out after this, and then any questions that we didn't get to, we'll send the FAQs as well. So thanks so much for being online this evening. And this is just to reiterate also, we'll have regular catch-ups with Playhq online in a format like this during the year as well. So this is not the end, this is just the start. So thanks again, and talk soon. Cheers, bye.